Hello and welcome back once again to the Fantasy Wildcard Devy Show. Your dynamic duo are in the house this evening. We've got myself, Jack, and my favourite man that supports Alabama. That's a very short list. It's Phil. How you doing, Phil?
Evening, mate. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Just looking forward to talking running backs. Finally, we've teased this one for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then kept putting off our homework and not doing our study. Well, finally, I've had chance, and I've absolutely loved diving into the tape. And I can't wait to share what we've found.
Excellent. Yeah, teacher Phil was really telling his class off that we weren't doing our homework. So we are here. We haven't backed out. We haven't last minute changed the agenda. We will attack these 2024 running backs. But first, let's have a quick chat because today the NFL, UK and Germany games have been announced. And there's a few fun talking points for Devy because and fantasy football in general, because we're going to see some rookie quarterbacks off the bat in their first year.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, obviously, the first one coming is the Jets and Vikings game. So will we or won't we see JJ McCarthy? I think might still be Sam Darnold's gig at that time.
Yeah, it's week 4, isn't it? A bit early.
Yeah. Although with it being Sam Darnold, he might have seen a few ghosts by then, and you never know. But I think it might be a little bit early for JJ. But great news for UK NFL fans. Like, you're going to get to see the real JJ, all being well. Yeah, exciting times. Like, I don't know about you. I mean, we'll go through the other games, Jack. I felt like, obviously, you'll be absolutely buzzing that the Patriots are one of the games. But I looked at the slate of games and kind of went, meh, this time, like, compared to some of the crackers we've had in years past. But then you forget that in every team there's stars and there's storylines, and Jets and Vikings might not grab you as a big one, but obviously, fingers crossed, people will get to see Aaron Rodgers. You get to see Justin Jefferson on the other side, Garrett Wilson, an Ohio State alum for you. Yeah, happy days.
Yeah, and I think it's good to remember that some of the London games that have been crackers, we didn't expect them to be when they were announced. Exactly. And things change really quickly. Like week 4 for Jets and Vikings, there's so many potentially exciting talking points there. As you say, Aaron Rodgers hasn't really had a Jets career yet. So it's exciting to see what they're going to look like. As a Patriots fan, hopefully not too good, but, good for fantasy, hopefully. And as you say, Darnold, McCarthy, either way, whoever's throwing it, JJ is going to be catching those balls and hopefully lighting up the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We get to see the number 1 overall pick from this year's draft because Caleb Williams is going to be the starter in Chicago. There's no competition there. And that's, number 1 pick against number 1 pick going up against Trevor Lawrence.
Like the last 2 quarterbacks to have kind of worn that label of generational prospects, Trev with mixed success so far, not necessarily all his own fault, but the outstanding college career before it, and then obviously Caleb coming in with all the hype that's surrounding him at the moment. It'll be really, really good to see him. And then obviously, Jack, I'll let you take the Patriots Jags game. Who are you looking forward to seeing from a Pats perspective?
Yes, the Mac Jones revenge game, right? He's definitely going to win that job. I am excited to see everything and anything that the Patriots have to offer. I think this season is going to be one of hope, regardless of exactly how good it is on the field. But the chance to see Drake May develop, whether he's starting or not, we'll see. I think many expect Drake May to start off the bat and win the job. It's interesting. I see Jacoby Brissett playing and maybe a considerable amount this season just because the Patriots have the luxury of no expectations for 2024. So they probably can give Drake May a bit more time to learn and develop. He's not got loads of weapons to throw to, but a couple of exciting young receivers taken in the draft. So we'll see how they all develop. I think the Patriots offense is one that for fantasy and NFL has low expectation, but high potential if they hit. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited also to try to wear my new Drake May jersey. The conversion from a Mac Jones jersey has taken place. Unfortunately, a bit of an ironing incident here with the but if anybody is looking to transform their Mac Jones jersey into a Drake May jersey, hit me up as long as you've got better ironing skills than I do, and I'll let you know where I got those transfers from, because I'm pretty pleased with how it went, despite the little slip that I made to put a hole in the jersey. So, or if you're looking rid of your Mac Jones jersey and you want to donate it to a valuable cause, I will accept it and have another go.
I love the fact that we've started the last 2 episodes with a story about one of your jerseys. I want to see how long we can keep this going. I want it to be a regular feature from now on.
I don't think I've got anything quite as exciting as those two, or as topical, but we'll see. We'll see what we can dig out of the wardrobe. See which other sports we delve into as well, to keep it interesting.
Quality.
And then,
so you've kind
of course, the last game is Giants at the Panthers in Germany. I haven't really put much thought into that, to be honest. I've been buzzing with the Patriots news and looking at renewing my season ticket. So, any thoughts on that one?
I mean, you've got to really look at Bryce Young and talk about last year's number 1 overall pick, exactly what they've done to support him and build that offense up around him. He's running back. Jonathan Brooks is hoping to be ready to go from the very off at the start of training camp, which would be an incredible recovery from his ACL injury. But they've also surrounded him with weapons. I love, like, one of my fantasy guilty pleasures is Deontay Johnson. Great receiver who is going to be in a hell of a situation to eat targets there from Bryce. And then, obviously they went and drafted Xavier Legette, who seems to have fallen to me in an awful lot of rookie drafts this year. So I will, I'll definitely be watching that one with interest, because, Bama fan through and through. I want Bryce to succeed. I really, really do. I think he's a hell of a young man and a hell of a talented player who was in an awful situation last year. And, the Panthers are making moves to support him. And fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody wants Bryce Young to succeed because of what a poor situation he's been put in, and that clock is ticking. I guess you only get so many chances as a quarterback in the NFL. I unintentionally am totally on board with both your picks there. I have the not deliberate stack of Bryce Young and Deontay Johnson in quite a few Devy and Dynasty leagues, acquiring Deontay Johnson when he was a bit cheaper, as he wasn't getting all the targets he wanted at the Steelers. But now we'll see if that's a stack that works out. I'm not going to be starting them both to begin with, but we'll see how we go as the season progresses.
Given my Ravens fandom, liking Deontay Johnson was always painful. But now as a Panther, I can be a lot more open about my support of him and how much I like him as a player.
Yeah, that's good news. NFL fandom really can tug at the heartstrings. I've got Garrett Wilson on so many teams, and I want him to do well, but the Jets to lose every week. And he's too talented to keep losing.
That's it.
But there we are. There are plenty of other fantasy wildcard pods that you can check out for your dynasty and rewind and redraft content. Let's crack on with our specialty, and we're going to check in to the 2024 running back class. Now, we are using 24/7's ratings and scouting reports for the top running backs as they have allocated them. So if we haven't got your favorite running back in this episode, it's not because we hate them. We've just had to draw a line somewhere, and we've had to try and park our own fandom aside. So there's no Alabama or Ohio State running backs being mentioned tonight, which hurt us both. That's why we're both repping our teams But we will start with Taylor Tatum from Oklahoma, who Phil has done a bit of a dive into.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. So just to get started then, listed at 5'10", 205 pounds, so he's a good ideal size. 4-star recruit. You'll notice there aren't any 5-star recruits in this running back class. 24/7 Sports has them all listed as 4 stars. I think that's because when we get to our wide receiver show, we can see there were a lot of really highly rated wide receivers in this cohort. But he was the number 1 running back in the class, according to 24/7 Sports, the number 6 overall player out of Texas, and the number 48 player nationally. So we're still talking about a top 50 recruit. All-American Bowl selection, where the best players from high school across the country go and face off against one another in almost like an all-star game, effectively. In his senior season, 189 rushes for nearly 1,500 yards. Not so much of a pass catching acumen. He only took in 6 receptions, but it is worth noting those 6 receptions went for 138 yards. So he was taking them to the house and he was taking them the distance. And looking at his huddle film, even saw he managed to mix in a passing touchdown amongst his senior season as well. So he really can do it all. Jack, do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you saw in the tape?
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. The passing touchdown gives you all kinds of Derrick Henry vibes. If you can think of some of those little jump pop passes that he throws into the end zone. I mean, there's probably only 2 of them, but I can remember them very vividly.
So can I. One was against the Ravens in the playoffs.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't remember that. But Taylor Tatum is... we've mentioned Derrick Henry there. He is a power back. He is strong. He's got a really low center of gravity when he's running, and he can make a broken play kind of into something, like make something out of nothing because of his strength and determination. So there are multiple occasions on tape of him kind of being wrapped up, or the offensive line being penetrated by defenders, and he still manages to make a play. It's like his strength and his determination to get through that. And obviously at high school level, that can get you a bit further, but which might not translate to college, but it's those attributes of using his power, using his determination, fighting through contact. That's what you love to see. Those do translate to the college game, just maybe not quite to a house call from 40 yards. He is a patient runner. He can find a lane well. He could do with some work. I think, all of these running backs, none of them have qualified as a 5-star. There's a few things that we'd love to see more of for them to really earn their Devy pedigree and earn, first round Devy picks. A few of them are borderline, is what I'm saying. I don't think Taylor Tatum is quite going to be a first round Devy pick for me this year. But if he shows a bit more, he's someone I would maybe look at going to acquire later on. So his lateral footwork could do with a bit of work. He can expose defenders really well with his cutbacks, and he finds those cutback lanes pretty well. But if he can improve that and find them every time, there are a few occasions on tape where those cutback lanes open up and he doesn't quite have the footwork to accelerate into them. But like Phil said, a great pedigree. He has the Longview High School record of touchdowns, and he eclipsed 4,000 yards while he was there. He profiles as a more traditional 3-down back. Like I've said, he can pass protect pretty well. And, like you mentioned, he didn't catch loads, but I think that's a common theme throughout the night that we'll say not many of these running backs have high pass catching pedigree so far. So he's someone who has an NFL style that could see him do really well as a Devy asset and make his way into a day 2 pick.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's interesting because when you look at the landing spot and when you look at the other running backs in that room at Oklahoma, this is one of the things that maybe the more casual kind of those of us or those of our kind of viewers who aren't super into college football and are just kind of dipping their toes in Devy, might not understand straight away. I suppose it's different in the sense when we talked about the quarterbacks previously, we said there's almost like that kind of hierarchy. The longer you're in the room, even if you're a high recruit, you might have to wait your turn. Some people don't always understand why that's necessarily the case at running back as well. And I think it's interesting. The room at Oklahoma this year will no doubt be led by Gavin Sawchuk and Javonte Barnes. And I just think it's quite interesting. There's also redshirt freshman Sam Franklin there as well. And I think Tatum will slot straight in as the third back straight away. Now, that means he might not see a great deal of game time, but it's so interesting. Sawchuk is quick, and Javonte Barnes is handy as a pass catcher and as a kind of one-cut back. And I just feel like the skill set we're talking about for Taylor Tatum here, like, whilst he will probably not see a ton of snaps, I think complements what already exists in that room quite well and may lead to him seeing slightly more exposure as a freshman than perhaps some of the other names we're going to mention.
Yeah, and I think that would put him in such a great position going into his second year at Oklahoma, because Sawchuk and Barnes will both leave at the end of the season. I think they're both out of eligibility. And the fact that Tatum has this more rounded skill set that's going to complement these two, but also could lead him into a feature role in the future in a running back room that after this year is pretty empty. If he gets some time on the field, if he shows the coaches that he deserves to be the lead guy, then you're not going to see many high-profile recruits come in to compete for that, I don't think. He's got a real opportunity to be the guy in year two.
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting makeup. And like I say, you're right. Sawchuk and Javonte Barnes are both likely kind of day 3 type NFL prospects. Later round dart throws in your dynasty drafts. I actually have a couple of late round dart throws from last year on Javonte Barnes as it is. And yeah, you're right. The room's going to open up, and he is in the position to take command. So he may well kind of dot in at times this year, but with decent production, you're right. That job's going to be his to lose, you'd feel, over the next couple of years moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's my favorite running back of the class from the tape that we've looked at. But we'll move on to George's favorite from the class. I know he's mentioned this guy, Nate Frazier, who's gone to Georgia, who's committed to Georgia for next season. And he is a quite different prospect. He is a compact running back. He's 5'11", 205 pounds, which is great size for a running back. It comes out of Mater Dei in California. He is a track runner. So he has a personal best 100 meters of 10.58 seconds, which is lightning quick. Like, that's a full second off the world record, which, okay, that's a big amount of time in professional athletics. But for someone who is competing in high school athletics to record that kind of speed, something we could only dream of. Maybe a few years ago.
Quicker than me, easily.
Yeah, at our peak as well. He's not even reached his peak when I am at least well past mine. And Nate Frazier is an interesting prospect because he has switched positions. So he began high school as a wide receiver and so has switched during his junior season to running back. It gives him a lot of experience of catching the ball and working on his hands, which not all running backs have. So it's really interesting. What did you see on tape other than just the position switch?
Oh, man. You said he was George's favorite. I think from what I've watched, he might be mine as well. Like the tape just gets you excited. It with every run, like, you kind of sit forward and go, "Oh, go on then." Oh yeah, he has done it. Oh yeah, fantastic. Like there's the element of a bruising runner, but you're right, lightning quick as well. He's just got a bit of everything. I really like that you've alluded to the fact he was a wide receiver, because he does show soft hands taking passing routes out the backfield. Again, he wasn't asked to do it a lot, but when you watch the extended highlights of the All-American Bowl game, the opening touchdown of the game was him coming out the backfield in a wheel route, and he takes it in his stride and just blows people away. And he showed really, really good hands, comfortable taking the ball out in front of him and reeling it in. Nice, soft hands. And okay, when you're a talented running, as talented running back as him, or some of the names we've kind of mentioned, they don't need to necessarily put all that on show in high school games. They can just literally take the ball on little handoffs and off they go, and they can let their excellent athleticism be what sets them apart. So it is good to see that amongst the very, very best high school prospects, this showed up on tape for Nate. The thing that stood out over and over again for me was the contact balance and the kind of footwork. Every clip you watch on his huddle film from last year, there's a move. I love how he tests defenders. He presses the hole and then uses lateral footwork to escape, move sideways, bounce outside if he needs to, and he bounces out with ease, not unnecessarily. Like, he presses the hole, feels the pressure, gets outside, and leaves people for dead. And again, it's only a light thing. One of the best guys doing this that I've seen moving into the kind of NFL draft just gone was something that Bucky Irving did. Always fell forward. When a play's coming to its end, his great contact balance gets him through any initial contact. But as he starts to go down, he always falls forward. And it's fighting for those extra yards, taking an extra 2-3 yards as he goes to the ground. And it happened over and over again, to the point where you think, this is just good play. It's not a fluke. You see it once, it's a fluke. It's something he's trying to do. He's got a mean jump cut. He made some high school defenders look silly on that huddle film. And I just think the combination of vision to watch what's going on behind the defensive line, watch where those second level linebackers are going, like I say, push them towards holes and really test them. And then that combination of that vision with his lateral agility to move sideways and put a move on a guy, it's a lethal combination. We're not going to see a great deal of him, as I'm sure you're going to allude to in just a moment. But when it's his time, like, he's going to make people sit up and take notice. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, he has that aura of someone who's a coach's dream, someone that is going to do exactly what he's asked to. He's going to fight for those extra yards, like you say, falling forwards. He's going to hit the holes he's supposed to. He doesn't bounce the ball outside for the sake of it. You know, he is following his assignment. He is following his blockers, which allows coaches to trust him. Now, as you say, he's going to Georgia, which, let's just take the headline. Georgia is a great landing spot. Georgia produces NFL running backs, and they train them up really well, and they develop running backs from high school through college to be NFL backs. The list is endless of superstars that have come out of Georgia. The problem with the landing spot is how congested that running back room is. Now, Georgia have brought in Trevor Etienne from Florida in the transfer portal, who looks like, he's coming in to be the feature guy. So it's not even a congested room that's going to share around the touches, which Georgia do. They do share around the touches. They don't overuse one guy, but Trevor Etienne is coming in as the superstar, as the guy who really wants and probably needs to have a great season to boost his NFL draft stock. So he's not going to want to come off the field at any point. You've got Roderick Robinson, who was a 5-star recruit. You've got, who else we got? Cash Jones is still there. Chauncey Bowens has just enrolled. Branson Robinson is there as well. Someone who I really like, but hasn't had an opportunity because of injury. You've got, who is it? The other Dwight Phillips, the other recruit that's coming in this year as well.
Yeah.
It's busy. It's a busy room. So Frazier is a candidate for a red shirt, I feel, which would be a shame, but would save his eligibility and save his legs for a crack at the starting job or a committee role in the future. But Georgia as a landing spot outside of the congested running back room is a great landing spot for Fraser. They love to get their running backs out in space and let them create, which is something that Fraser has shown on tape that he is so good at. He is excellent in the open field. Like you mentioned, his lateral footwork and his speed of feet get him away and around defenders and make them look silly. So Georgia will help him do that as long as, like we mentioned, he stays disciplined and he does attack the power run game that the Bulldogs do run. And I think he does have the frame and the size and the speed still to do that, as well as get those opportunities in the open field, on the outside, on a toss play, that kind of thing. So I do really like the landing spot if he manages to carve out a role, or at least carve out a future role and show that he deserves to be in the mix in 2025. We're going to see so little of him in 2024.
Yeah, mate, I think you've absolutely nailed that. I'm a firm believer that as long as a running back stays healthy, talent will win out. And I'm sold. I loved what I watched. And I'll certainly be rooting for him and watching with interest. Because you're right, the room's full. Georgia doesn't take anybody that isn't good enough to be at Georgia. If you end up at Georgia, you likely would have had your pick of the vast majority of other programs in the entire country. We've already seen Andrew Paul move out. And we mentioned Branson Robinson last time as someone who is likely to get another opportunity if he can get back from that brutal torn patella injury. But again, he was one that everyone knew as a kind of viral superstar before he ever set foot in Athens, because he was absolutely rocked up as a kid, wasn't he? It's going to take him time, and you're right, a possible redshirt candidate. But let's see how he gets on. He's certainly a talented boy, and I think a little bit off people's radar at the moment. He's kind of one to me where if you watch the tape and you agree with me, and you go, actually, yeah, I like this kid, because of the situation in the running back room, and because of the fact that he was actually the third ranked guy on 24/7 Sports. You might find that he slips. You might find that he's not actually on people's radar, and you could actually pick up a handy little bargain there. Particularly, I'm getting out of my comfort zone here, Jack, but would that be the case in a C2C league as well as a Devy one?
Yeah, I think the crowded running back room is a big deal for value falling, because people have invested quite a bit in the Georgia running back room. So everybody is hoping that their guy is going to make the return this year. I'm certainly doing that with Branson Robinson. I'm still believing in that talent and hoping that he can work his way into a starring role. So someone like Nate Fraser will drop down. And I think with the transfer portal, there's like you say, Georgia don't take or recruit anybody that's not good enough to be at Georgia. So Nate Fraser might slip in the drafts because he's in a crowded situation. It's not ideal for early playing time, but he is good enough that if he does redshirt or if he does transfer, his value still holds for me. So I think it's someone I'm yet to go into any supplemental drafts or any Devy drafts that have included the freshmen yet, just because database is still being set. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Fraser drop beyond really good value. Like he could go really far down, as you say, the wide receivers are going to push all the running backs down.
Absolutely. So keep him there. Keep him as a late round dart throw in those, and thank us later.
Absolutely. Right, our next running back, Phil. Talk to me about Jerick Gibson.
Yeah. So Jarrett Gibson has gone to Texas. He will join a very crowded and very talented Texas offense and a deep running back room. He's one that has been around and a name that's bubbled for a while as one of the top kind of youth football stars in America. Like, he's kind of ripped up the camp scene and done the 7-on-7 stuff and has really made a name for himself and put himself out there. Again, we kind of talked about it with Dylan Raiola. He's played at 3 high schools, which could be viewed as a positive, could be viewed as a negative. But he played his senior year at the absolute juggernaut that's the IMG Academy. He was the number 2 running back in the class, according to 24/7 Sports. 5'10", 200 pounds. Again, very similar size. All 3 of those backs that we've mentioned are very, very similar in size and stature. Because he was at IMG and they're an absolute powerhouse with a roster, a high school roster that kind of looks like a college roster. He perhaps didn't get the leg run of some of the other backs we've kind of gone through in his final season. He rushed for 740 yards, averaging 5.8 yards a carry with 8 rushing touchdowns. So modest production in terms of what he was used to in his previous seasons at his former high schools, but that's not a knock on him. It's a product of IMG's system and how good they are.
Yeah, absolutely. We've said that Georgia don't recruit anyone that's not good enough to play for Georgia. IMG Academy don't allow anyone to enroll who isn't good enough for IMG Academy. The other thing to say with IMG is that Gibson is not going to be an early enrollee. IMG Academy don't let their students leave early. They have to graduate, which, to be honest, something I really like from an education and well-rounded point of view. But we've spoken a bit about Brandon Innes and how he suffered from that coming from IMG. So we'll see. I think it's less of a problem for Jarrett Gibson because he's coming into a uber talented running back room where he's not expected to fight for a starting position anyway. But we'll see what happens there with the late enrollment. But let's talk about what he's put on tape, because he can't do anything about that. So what he has done is shown us his style of play. He is explosive in absolutely everything that he does. He is explosive in his power in and through contact. He is explosive in his acceleration. He's got explosively quick feet. At 5'10", he also has shown the ability to, he's not too small at all. He's a good size for running back, but he is elusive behind the offensive line. He can get lost. There are times on tape where you can tell the linebackers have no idea which hole he's about to hit. They've completely lost him. So he is shown that he can hide really well in a good way without being too small that it affects his vision. He thrives on cutbacks and counter plays where the defense can't read him. He's strong in an outside zone offense. So if you can get him the ball on sweeps or tosses, or even just, you're not going to design a check down, but if you can get him a check down, get him the ball in space, and if he can get outside, then goodbye, because he is rapid. And that explosive acceleration he's got off his first step, second step, third step is brutal for defenders to try and keep track with. He can't over rely on getting to the edge though, so he's got to work a little bit on being that 3 down back, even in college, especially at somewhere like Texas where the pedigree is so high, the expectation is so high. He can't rely on that explosiveness and that outside work. So he's got some work to do on pass protection to stay on the field. But again, which high school running back doesn't have some work to do in pass protection? And then equally, which college running back doesn't have work to do on pass protection when they get to the NFL? So it is a hit, but not a massive glaring error in his game that I'm worried about. And his upside is huge. I think he potentially has the highest upside of this running back class. His explosive play and game-breaking ability is there on tape. He has that big big play ability with quick feet, speed, field vision, and he's pretty good at catching out the backfield too. He's got some nice hands, not loads on tape, but also not, I can't remember any glaring drops or laps of concentration when the ball is coming his way. So someone I think that has a really high upside going into a school that is going to be really good for his development as an all-round back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting, like, because he is heading to Texas. Again, he's another one when these top level recruits walk into these high powered schools, it can be difficult for him to get lost in the shuffle, and be under no illusions, as talented as he is. This year's running back room at Texas is going to be led by CJ Baxter and Jaden Blue, who might be one of the best 1-2 punches in college football outside of yours at Ohio State, obviously. I can't think of any 1-2 tandems that are better than that duo there. Then you've also got sophomore Quintravion Wisner.
Well played. I wasn't taking that one.
Quintravion, man, what was his mum thinking? And then fellow freshman and enrollee Christian Clark. So he's another who may well have to wait for touches, but he's in a great place to learn. And when you're in Texas, whether you're seeing the field or not, you're going to be paid quite handsomely. So he's all right there.
Yeah, I'm sure he's well set, and CJ Baxter will have all the aspirations to be graduating to the NFL at the end of this season, I'm sure. Jaden Blue, I'm delighted that he has resurrected some of his Devy value, because I was really keen on him coming out of high school, and then he didn't get any game time, and then he got injured, and so I doubt Jaden Blue goes to the NFL next year. But again, there's space there to earn a role for Jarrett Gibson, and great coaches to learn from, great running backs in that room to learn from. So yeah, absolutely. I really am. I'm plugging for him in the 3rd round, 4th round of my Devy drafts. But he might slip even further, round 5, round 6, and I'll be delighted to take that high upside pick there.
No, without a doubt. So that's the big three. That's the big three. Is there anyone else who caught your eye, Jack? If you move outside of those, we'll just do a quick breakdown of your kind of next favorite guy, or one you like the tape of that's maybe not getting the love that others are at the moment.
Yeah, I've picked a slightly different style of running back. We said these guys are kind of the same build, all got not the same, but similar attributes. But Kedron Young out of Notre Dame, or going to Notre Dame, sorry, is a big boy, and he looks like a lot of fun. So he is 6 foot, 229 pounds. In high school, 229 pounds. He is a bruiser. He's played at Lufkin High School in Texas, so he's played a high caliber high school football. Obviously, without saying, he's a power back with that size, but he does have strong agility in tight spaces as well. I was really surprised by how good his footwork was. And now he's the Peter Crouch equivalent of good touch for a big man. He's got quick feet for a power back. And I love it. So he is obviously effective in inside zone schemes, but he's pretty good in outside zone schemes too. And he accelerates through the crease when he sees it. He's a north to south runner. He's not going to cut back too often, but when he hits the hole, he's going to hit it hard. And that's perfect for Notre Dame. That's this kind of scheme they want him to run. And there's not loads in front of him in that running back room. Audric Estime has gone to the NFL, and Kedron Young could really carve out arguably the most playing time out of the top 10 running backs in this class. Obviously, those that go to a smaller school have a bigger chance, but Kedron Young's going to Notre Dame, a high pedigree, run the ball, hard-nosed offense, and he could be the guy. I genuinely see an opportunity for him to earn the lead back role in year one. And that is so exciting for a Devy prospect. And for someone who, Cadron Young is rated wildly differently on different recruiting sites at the moment. So he could be someone that is the last pick of your Devy draft because nobody else even really knows about him. So he's someone that I am really interested in. He's able to use that physicality really well in his running style. So as well as being a power back, just watch some of his stiff arms. He just translates that bulk and that power into a stiff arm, and his blocking. So he's an excellent blocking running back. So his pass protection is going to keep him on the field too. But obviously, it's more fun to see someone get pancaked than to see someone just be held up a little bit in pass pro. So try and find some of those. And I'd love to see him get a load of game time at Notre Dame. And I think he really could.
Do you know, it was interesting, Jack, because as you were talking, like immediately my mind went, well, this is what they're losing in Audric Estime. And then in no time whatsoever, you kind of mentioned him, having moved on into the NFL. And yeah, he seems like a ready-made replacement, doesn't he? So many overlapping skills. 229, that is massive. I mean, that's a bus running at you. And to think he's that big coming out of high school, that's a frightening prospect. So yeah, a really exciting player to watch, perhaps for different reasons than the guys we've already named, but absolutely. Yeah, I like that. So I went a little bit different again. I decided that I would take a little look at Peyton Lewis from Tennessee. Again, 6 foot, so he's as tall as Kedron Young, but his frame is very different at 197. 33 pounds, 34 pounds lighter than Kedron Young. That's a lot of difference. Interestingly, track athlete, 2-time state champion. I had to look this one up, and then I second guessed myself, so I looked it up somewhere else. Apparently, the 55 meters is a thing. The 55 meters. Anyway, he's a 2-time state champion at the 55 meters. And when you extrapolate his time, it kind of equates to roughly a 4.5 40, so a decent speed for a running back. When you watch his tape, I sat and watched the Huddle film, and it was interesting. It was difficult to tell how much of it is a well-tooled running back and how much of him was just outrunning people with sheer athletic ability as opposed to the peers he was up against. So it will be interesting to watch at the next level how he adjusts to see whether he handles it. What I will say is he definitely hits the hole with purpose and speed. He's a one-cut downhill type guy who likes to get beyond the line of scrimmage quickly. He's that fast moving that an arm tackle is not going to do the job. You're going to have to take him down. You're going to have to show fundamentals and really good technique to bring him down at first contact. I was quite impressed with how he ran through the holes, given his perhaps lack of bulk. But he also does again have speed to bounce players outside when he needs it. And again, decent stiff arm. Routinely, a nice stiff arm showed up on tape. He gears down quickly, which is quite nice. And can change direction. And yeah, the big thing for him moving to Tennessee is obviously Jalen Wright's moved on. There's an opportunity. There is some opportunity in that backfield. It'll just be interesting to see that as the competition steps up, can he step up with it? Because he's going to have to show that he can rely on more than just outrunning the competition.
Yeah, and I hope that is the case because he is fun to watch. He is obviously super athletic, and you see him burning past and through defenders. But yeah, the step up in competition will be interesting. I don't know how he got on in spring practice or if he's on campus yet, but yeah, someone I haven't watched loads of, someone I'm excited to watch a bit more of. So
You're
I'll
right.
leave my comments there.
it was fun to watch. And again, like you look at the speed, and maybe it's unfair. Maybe it's unfair to watch that huddle film and knock him for some. Yeah, we can't assume he doesn't have a skill he didn't have to show. I think that's the big thing. And when your superpower, I suppose, in your toolkit was the ability to just simply run away from people, well, then you don't have to do some of the other things as routinely. But it just leaves questions, from our point of view as amateur evaluators or people that want to find the next guys for our Devy team. We kind of need to see that they can do it, and at the moment, maybe we just haven't yet. But that's not to say that he can't, and it's certainly not a knock on him as a prospect.
Sounds like someone we're going to watch closely
without
in year one. Probably not picking up in any drafts this summer.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Fab. Well, add him to your watch list, guys. Okay, we are going to end the show as we always do with an episode of Sell, Keep, Acquire. And I'm going to continue the theme of Tennessee running backs after Peyton Lewis and look at Dylan Sampson, who is the incumbent running back 1 at Tennessee. And he's someone I am keeping. He's probably dallies over the line into acquire as well. He's, as you mentioned, Jalen Wright has gone to the NFL, and Sampson stepped up in the bowl game when Jalen Wright sat out. He racked up 133 yards in that game against the stingiest of Iowa defenses, the dullest of Iowa teams, but there's no criticism of their defense whatsoever. They are it is impressive to rack up 100 yards on last year's Iowa defense. So I'm interested in Dylan Sampson. Practice reports have him as the clear running back 1. He seems to be a coach favorite if you listen to coach speak, or if you trust any of it, which we can pick and choose what we like. But they trust him so much, they rested him completely in the spring game. They know what they've got in him. And with an injury to Cam Seldon, who was viewed as the competition there, and the lack of any real movement in the transfer portal for running backs, this is really a great opportunity for Dylan Sampson. So I want to keep him and see what he can do in that offense this year. Total change because there'll be a new quarterback as well, but a really exciting one in the Yamaleva. So see what that duo can be it feels unknown at Tennessee, and that's exciting for someone like Dylan Sampson, who, again, someone you won't have had to pay a lot for in Devy leagues, or someone you won't have to pay a lot for if you want to go and acquire him. But the opportunity there is really open.
I love doing this because we get to bounce names off each other that perhaps we haven't always considered. We learn from each other all the time as this is going on. And Dylan Sampson was one that I perhaps hadn't had my eye on. And when you first mentioned him, kind of pre-show when we were talking, I've been looking and checking his availability, and in all but one of my leagues he is available, which just goes to show. Listen to us, take that gamble, find the right spot in your draft when you think, do you know what? I trust Jack. I like Jack. I'm going to put my reputation on Jack, and I'm going to take Dylan Sampson and see what happens. Like running backs, we've discussed our strategy for drafting running backs. I think, if you've got him on your roster right now, he's onto a great opportunity, like Jack said, but he's likely available in a lot of, shall we say, shallower leagues with kind of 3 and 4 round Devy drafts. So go out there and have a look. See if you can pick him up in the 4th when the rest of the, when it's looking a little bit thin, and yeah, give it a whirl.
Yeah, when everyone's hitting the 3-star freshman wide receivers, I'd much rather pivot to someone like Dylan Sampson.
Absolutely. Great advice, Jack. So I am going buy again. It's off season. I've got a shopping habit. I would like to this week go out and buy Trey Harris, wide receiver from Ole Miss, because he is a name that is very much on the rise. for the first time, I think, no disrespect to his teammates last year at Ole Miss, but I think he's got a true running mate to take some of the pressure off him now that Juice Wells has joined him in Oxford. They've got one of the SEC's better quarterbacks throwing him the football in Jackson Dart, who will be looking to boost his own NFL draft stock this year. Last year, after transferring in from Louisiana State, he racked up 47 catches for 851 yards and 8 touchdowns. That is, like, to put that in context, that is a booming 18.1 yards per catch. Like, that is huge. He is a straight line, deep threat that can blow the doors off. And watching him again, it's easy to draw comps, and easy for me as a Ravens fan to look back into our history. He reminds me of Torrey Smith. As a prospect, he really reminds me of Torrey Smith, and I just feel like nobody's talking about him, at least not to the level they should be yet. He is a name that's starting to bubble and starting to generate traction. And I just feel like if you don't buy him now or look to acquire him in this draft, if he's available, you're going to have to pay a lot more for him later. PFF had him with a receiving grade of 89.6 for last season, which is the 8th best in all of college football out of the 900 plus that they had metrics for. And yeah, I think combining him this year with Juice Wells to perhaps take some of the heat away from him and draw some of that coverage, it's going to open up an even bigger season for Trey Harris. He's an outside guy, 6'2", 205, outside receiver. He, without a doubt, separates using athleticism rather than any kind of nifty craftiness. You want him blowing past defenders and targeting those 9 routes and post routes. Yeah, for me, right now, when we've kind of got the big 3 that we've talked about in this upcoming class, you've then got to make it a big 4 because Emeka Egbuka's firmly entrenched in that as well. You've then got a cut just below that, a tier down, that's kind of headlined at the moment by Isaiah Bond at Texas, formerly of Alabama. I know you're a fan of him. Right now, Jack, I think it's a coin flip talent-wise. I think they've got different skill sets, but very much a coin flip for what you need and what you like and how you want your receivers to play. But I certainly know which one of those names is cheaper at the moment. And for that reason, I would be looking to buy Trey Harris rather than Isaiah Bond, perhaps.
Absolutely. You've just, I was thinking of what I was going to comment, and then you just kept saying it and saying it and saying it. I think after that top 3 and then Emeka Egbuka in his own tier, really, I think it's totally open who's the next best wide receiver. And all the hype has been around the receiver class that's just gone. But this one's pretty deep too.
Yeah.
Like, you think Wells and Harris are on the same team. They could both put themselves into round 1 consideration with a strong season. And Trey Harris is someone that until they prove me wrong, he's someone that the Raiders would take in the top 10. Yeah. He's got that kind of skill set. So that's not meant as an insult on Trey Harris, but if the Raiders are going to take their guy, it's going to be someone like Trey Harris until they show me that they're not the same franchise. So Trey Harris has round 1 upside for the NFL draft.
Without a doubt.
Now, if you want to acquire him in any league that I am in, you're going to have to pay up because I have him pretty much everywhere, especially in Campus to Canton leagues. So, Phil, come and join me. In fact, Phil, you need to answer my call. There's a Campus to Canton league that I have an opening in. So if Phil doesn't take it and there's a listener out there that's interested, hit us up on the socials and we can chat a bit more about Campus to Canton leagues. But you know what? Maybe I'll sweeten the deal and I'll offer you a decent trade on Trey Harris if you take up the team.
You're a good man. You're a good man. I will sit and have a proper look at it and figure out. I think I love the prospect. And actually, I mean, I might be a sucker for not quite understanding all the ins and outs of C2C yet, but it looks like a half decent roster. it looks like a half decent, particularly from the NFL side of things. There's certainly some Devy crossover names in the college side of it as well. I just don't know if part of the fun of doing your first ever C2C league would be doing a startup and actually putting a team together for yourself. That's all that's holding me back from taking it off you at the moment, because I certainly think it could win a ship on the NFL side or be competitive.
Yeah, I think Evan Stewart's on that one too, isn't he? So
he is indeed.
Yeah, it's a good team. It's a team that made the playoffs in both sides, I think, last season. So yeah, you're not entering in for a dud on both sides. Don't worry. But yeah, we'll see. More Campus to Canton chat is guaranteed whenever I'm around. So don't worry. If you have any questions about Devy or Campus to Canton leagues or any of the running backs that we've chatted about this evening, or even you've got running backs that you've heard of, you've seen tape on that you want us to have a discussion about, please get in touch with us. You can do that on X at Wildcard Devy, and you can follow us. And make sure you do follow us on YouTube and X at Fantasy Wildcard to get all the Fantasy Wildcard goodness coming at you left, right, and center. We will be back with another show soon. Until then, have a great evening. Goodbye.